and welcome to Josef's Model Railway and Toy Room. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me. Just a little bit of housekeeping. You don't need to like, follow, or subscribe to any of the videos I put out there. Just put them out there where I can. Have a holly jolly great time doing so. Well, thank you so much for joining me back on the progress we're making now with this little model railway or model railroad or train set, whatever you want to call the situation, where we're building one inside the model railway itself. So we're on the corner, one of these corners where we create these lovely scenes. And as you've seen in the previous video, we've been busy sculpting it out. Then we started putting the earthworks down. And now we're going to pick it up in the next section. We're now going to start to get some trees prepared, all the same steps and formulas we've been through in all the other previous videos. So for those of you that don't know how I do it, we're going to check that out. For everyone else that does, feel free to fast forward through and get through and see where we're up to. We're also going to do a little bit of pre-wiring. You'll recall we had our little railway crossing signals, LED ones we had made up. Well, now we've got to get them in place and we're going to do the pre-wiring for that. We don't have a big module that we're working on at the moment, so we've had to get a little bit creative on this one. So that's what we're going to check out today. We're still far from quite getting this one done at the moment, but we make some good progress as always. And I did, as always, cut it at about the 20-minute mark or thereabouts so it doesn't get all too long. So let's get stuck into it now and carry on where we left on. Just a quick recap on that previous video, and we were busy doing the earthworks. We also laid just a little bit of the burnt static grass just around the edges of the track here, just to give it the thing that obviously the weed spraying and that goes in to maintain this area as they do in some parks. So that's where we left it. Let's pick up and check out that sexy grass.
Well, what we're going to do here quickly is we're going to take some paint and we need to mark the pairs of cable what need to be joined to soldered. Look, it's not a complicated thing, but identifying them one by one, it still takes time. So anything we can do to save time, let's do that, shall we? I had something more elaborate planned for that. I'm not sure why. I think that's all we need to do at the moment. As soon as they're into position, we'll solder them all up together. Nice clean feeds of wire. And most importantly, because we need to get this circuit board underneath the landscape, while we don't have much room, the landscape isn't much bigger than this anyway. So we'll extend it over, and I believe we're going to stick with the original format that we'll run it underneath to the edge of the board and then down, as opposed to cutting a hole in underneath. It doesn't really matter, but it will be neater and faster and easier to maintain if we nip out to the side.
And a quick catch up with the local chaps, and looks like they are making some good progress over there as they've got a bit of earthworks going on, getting ready to start basically where we are with the track laying. Fantastic. So as we put all that lot aside, we've had our delivery of trees, which is what we've been waiting on. And as you can see, or basically I'm going to stick with this shade of green. I really like it and it works well on my particular layout. Now, we've obviously got them here in our 28 centimeters, and I also have some in the 23 centimeter one. If we just take a quick look in the box, you'll notice here the green stuff is from the trees, and I've only done one, but by the time we're going to sit there and get it into shape, you're going to lose a lot of stuff. But I just want to quickly talk to you about trees. The first thing is, when you're purchasing some of the stock standard knock trees and things like that, and this is an old one we're working on, you can see the trunk is just all smooth from the plastic, and that's why I like to add a few crushed leaves. Some of the textures, like some of your gum trees and things like that, they'll actually basically have the wire and then it's sort of dipped into what is basically a glue, like your PVA or something, some sort of a latex to smooth it out around the edges, and then they can paint and further texture it. And that's a good way to go, absolutely. But as we've talked about, I like to add some bark. But what's really interesting is this particular series
of trees at the moment. They've kind of done some of the work for me. They've sort of roughed it up with the plastic or the wire. I'm not sure what they're doing there. And then painted it brown. And what's important is we're still going to carry on the trunk of the tree. But as you look up the tree, you'll certainly notice that you're still maintaining that texture in it at the moment. So that's less you've got to do, and probably even a better result than I can give you. Now, I'm not sure how many we're going to need at the moment, so I think, as always, our best plan of attack is let's just get some out and start getting them flocked up, and then we'll get on with the crushed leaves. So again, straight out the packet, you can see as I'm shaking it, there's your green stuff straight away there. Well, don't worry about doing that. Just literally start to grab some armatures and sort of get them a bit more into a tree-like pose, if you like. There's no right or wrong with this. And just cue some music here and we'll get this one done together. Right, so we've got a small one and we've got a large one. Look, we are going to carry on and get these all done. And the next step, after you've got them where you want them, the next step is I generally will take them outside, hang on to the base of them and spray fixative spray around them. That's correct. I haven't finished doing our leaves and bark yet attached to the tree, but this way it stops all the green stuff from moving and everything will be just lovely moving on. So the next step is, now we've got this sort of size, we're going to now take the module sitting below and we're going to clear this out, move it into place and see where the trees sit to see how many and what size are going to work best to sort of give us the edge, because the primary focus has to be the train line has to stay running. The other thing is I did have some of this fencing here and I think that would be absolutely fantastic to just, I don't usually like to run it, but we will run it just around the edge of that curvature for where the trees are to break it up nicely. And just remembering as we come back over towards station side, this is the exact fencing here. So I'd like to try and texture it back up if I can the way we had it, which I think it was just water-based white paint. And then that's really it, a light sponge back. So let's just take that plastic fence kit. I did do it with, I can't remember how I did this before, but basically I just took a bit of black and I ended up with a bit of just actual white paint. I diluted it down a bit and just sponged it on to give that kind of texture to it. I think these will be okay. We can texture them up later as needed, soften them down, but they're going to be in the shade of those trees, so I think this will probably be a pretty fair balance. Let's make sure all this fits together and we'll just quickly trim up the path there in the corner we hadn't done before. Blue and silver. I always thought it was blue and white. How about that? You always learn something. You never stop learning. Right, got a big and we got the small. I guess there was some logic in going up with the big one, meaning the trunk, as you can see, would sit higher, but is that looking a bit out of proportion to this part of the scenery? Probably not, actually. Since we've got the gap anyway where it's going to need to sit, what we could just do is pop a hole and the tree would naturally just sit in it. It clears the coach magnificently. Then we could landscape up around where that tree is and the module could still come in and out. Sort of, probably. We'll just take a few pins now, and the yellow ones are marking out where we don't want anything because the train clearance is tight. The rest we'll get some trees in there, I hope. That's the plan anyway. Well, we better start flocking some of these trees out then, shall we? Just going to use a trusty old leaf blower to quickly get the loose stuff out.
just going to take any type of fixative spray, and this is just going to stop them from all moving around a bit. You'll still be able to pose them. It's just locking that the green stuff into place. It only needs probably a minute or two to set, but I'm just going to leave it out here in the breeze for about 10-15 minutes. And then we'll get started with the bark.
Lovely, lovely. Another picture perfect day. Why would you want to be stuck inside with a model railway when you can be out here gluing trees together? Well, here we are again. I must have covered this in so many videos, but it's the usual procedure. We'll just get these trees laid out. We're going to take some PVA. In this approach, I'm doing it slightly different. Just to can a bit of PVA out, and then I take a little bit of wet water out in a bottle, just a few squirts there. I still want it to be pretty sticky, almost like a consistency of almost a toothpaste, maybe a little thinner, tooth polish if you call it that. And we're just going to brush it on with the brush, and you better believe it, sprinkle some leaves, generally straight over the same pot. We can just keep recycling it, turn it over and keep going. Leave them to dry, and then we'll clean it up. That's been a few days now, and these beauties look fantastic. So what we're going to do, we're not actually going to recycle these bits of leaves as you may expect. And you can probably see, if we can get you in nice and close, you'll probably see the reason is because I end up with some green matter in here. That could be useful. You may want to recycle it for things. Maybe we will. But for the most part, I'm not going to on these. But we've got our beautiful trees now. I got our small ones. We just want to give them a good dust off on the trunks there. Now that's carving quite the image, isn't it? So what we're going to do at this point is we need to get, there's no harm in getting these key trees put in, because it's going to frame it up nicely, and then we can sort of build up and landscape around it and make sure the module will keep removing. On the downside, as you can see here, we don't have much thickness to sit the controller in for the lights, so we're going to have to solder and extend the cables out for those lights. And we will still come and use that end point. I think that's a nifty little spot to exit out on and come straight out. So let's get that happening. Some of these trees I'm going to have a hole that's going to sit straight into the actual baseboard. So when it comes to working it out, I like to just take a set of drill bits and then roughly working out what's going to fit for me. So that one's a little bit big, and I'm thinking 6 might be there. Now if it's a bit tighter, that's a good thing, because you can always gently drill it out slightly to get what you need, but we do need a snug fit. So it looks like 6 is the winner for these big trees. We don't want to drill all the way through, which will probably happen anyway. A quick test fit. Yeah. So it definitely could be a little bit bigger, but as you can see, the tree stands quite nicely, and we can trim it or shape it down the bottom if we need. So at the moment, we're just going to leave them exactly like that. We're going to build the scenery up around it when we've got the heights right, and once it is, we're still going to always leave it to be a removable tree for this section. The rest will be attached to that scene. And then you probably can't see on the camera, there's a red and a green, and I apologize for the camera work this time, because generally the camera set up where I need to work, even though it would look better here. So I'm sorry, that's just the way this one's going to go today. We'll just get a couple of these trees at the moment. They may not be the ones that are there. I want to check if it's going to work like this. Oh yes, that very nice. We may still end up with another one just there, but this is good. The next bit, I'd like to get on with the static grass with what we're doing with the landscaping. However, I think what we're going to have to do, based on some technicalities I've noticed, is we're going to have to get on with the wiring now for those lights. So that's what we'll move on to now. You can see I've already pre-cut some lengths of wire here. So we're going to basically get the lights into place on the board, and we're going to solder them up. And like we did before, underneath the foam board, we will scribe in some little routes for the cables to go, so it can do, the module can just drop into place. We're also going to do a third feed, I think, as well. I'd love to get a set of lamp posts on the pathway if possible. I'm not sure about that. We're going to give it a try. Welcome back again. I've had a little bit of a think about it, and I'm going to pre-cut an extra length of cable because somehow I am going to figure out some pedestrian lights separate to the sort of safety ones that are going to go across the railway crossing. That's what I'm just prepping up with a little length of wire at the moment. But I was thinking, while we've got that drill and vacuum out, I'm going to pre-drill that hole I needed to do over on the other side here, ready for it. Now this is an interesting camera angle, I understand, but most importantly, you can see that here are our drawers here. So I'm aiming to hit a hole somewhere about here. So the good news is, as I've talked about, of course the equestrian scene lifts out. There's nothing electrical there, and we're not going to do that at the moment, but this is that wonderful stuff from Scale Model Scenery, which I understand they're not making anymore, but I'm sure there's other companies making a similar type of product. So because I never sort of finished this off exactly yet, we can just push it aside and we've got lovely access. The only downside with this is I think we're going to have to come back further because the cabinet obviously has the edging, but then there's the frame behind it, so it's two lengths. So I think I'm going to have to come back a little bit further. Let's get these out of the way. This was going to be a digger I was going to use to load things in with the coal, but I'm not too sure about that yet. And this is just a bit too big for the scene. Right, success. I think what we're going to do is come right around the bend here. That way we miss everything. And as you can see, we'll quickly make those wires disappear. So we're just making sure there's no metal or electrical underneath. Don't even need a big hole, so we'll just keep the same drill bit on actually. Should have just what we need for that. Come on, file lap, get back up. So I've decided I'm going to lay the electrical in now. I wanted to do static grass first, but this is just going to be much easier because we've built such a good terrain on the bottom. We're going to actually need a drill to get through it. Oh, and I should have checked that because I forgot about the plate, but the good news is here and here are the penetrations, so we're doing just fine there. We will just put those lamp posts in because I'm not sure how the rest of this is exactly going to look. I think the smart thing is we'll just put them bang in the middle and we can keep all our cable routes looking quite good. And I don't know how far away they're going to be yet, so this certainly won't be as forgiving as what we had with faulty towers, where we had nice big clumps of foam to carve and sculpt it with. So we're going to have to try and do our best with this one. And I think I've lost my other probing stick. Sometimes you just got to go the old-fashioned route. So far it's still intact. And a couple of little holes to feed that cable through now. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out at the other end, except for it's probably going to come out the lower part here. And let's take those lengths of wire and we'll just feed them in. I did just put knots accordingly on each one so I know where they are. And let's sit those signals into place. The dropper glue on the signals, the lamp posts, we won't glue yet. And this looks good. Let's leave those to dry, and I think we're up to some magic on this one. And now we're just going to solder up or pre-solder to all those extensions, and we're going to heat shrink it, secure it, make sure they're all good, and then just gently tug back on the cable to pick up the slack. So we've got a reasonably neat little module. The little bits of wire that are still a little bit loose at the bottom are absolutely hair thin, so, and of no weight is this module. So it will sit lovely. And how's this? This was the original picture if you would go back a couple of videos ago when we were doing the finishing touches to the engine shed. And I said to the artificial assistant, co-pilot, or whatever you're using, Gemini or Grok or whatever you prefer to use, I simply said, how about demonstrating it to a client? Make the forklift a little more dirtier, and how about adding a high-vis vest to the worker there? And this is obviously what it turned out, and you know, you've got to really wonder a bit where we're going to go this way. Why make a model railway when you can just ask the AI to build it for you? Enough of that distraction, back to work now. So now that we've got that wiring in place, we're going to grab a few trees and let's just make sure everything is where we need to do. Is we're going to lay some PVA in the back there. I've just mixed up some stones, a little bit of buff, a little bit of dirt. I'll come back with the dirt, and we're just going to create a bit more of a seamless join between the bit that comes out and the bit that stays. Here we go. Now it probably looks like I made a bit of a mess there, dumping this stuff on and putting glue down, and it was just to sort of build this up. I'm going to come and add some dirt as we go on. But most importantly, while we're creating this, most of the glue didn't touch it, so don't worry, we're going to suck and clean it up with a vacuum cleaner once it's dried. But I do need to lift the module out. I've taken the trees out and left beautiful little holes for them to slide in and out of. But the module needs to come out while this carries on drying, and then we'll suck it up with the vacuum and clean it up. So we're going to be a little bit gentle. We're going to lift up and then push forward. We want to try and catch this before it dries. And I think you can see exactly why I'm doing this now, which is exactly to do with what you can see here. Don't worry too much because the bottom got sculpted out, so this really isn't as bad as it may look. Looks very good actually. I'm quite happy with that. So it looks like a mess as we walk away now, but it'll look beautiful when it's dried and we clean it up. There's quite a bit of glue down, so we might actually leave this one for a 24-hour period. Fan only mode, but this should certainly promote some great drying times. Let's see what happens. I won't leave it on time lapse. Well, girls and boys, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for another video. I hate to cut it there, otherwise it's going to get far too long. But of course, please do join me in the next video as we'll keep carrying on with the process that we're making. I think this scene will really transform once that static grass, which will be in the next video, gets down and we start to sort of get the trees in place and really start to keep the scene moving at the moment. It's the same as we've done with all our other modules, the bowling alley, the golf courses, the equestrian scene. It's the same formula that, of course, we've always done, but it's a different scene we're working on, and it's always thoroughly enjoying making these little situations. But most importantly, compared to this one, probably one of the first scenes I think we've done where it actually has a story to be told that interconnects to the other part of the scene. So across the tracks and making our way up to Faulty Towers. So I really think there's still a lot more storytelling I'm about to squeeze into the scene, as you're about to see coming up. But until then, as always, please do stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Toodles!